世纪周刊更名为财新周刊，财新周刊每周一出版，全国发行。懒投资，国内专业的互联网理财平台，收益超银行活期数倍，已为众多用户带来丰厚收益。懒投资，理财新选择。
在华尔街，全球最大的私募投资集团黑石集团的创始人和 CEO 苏世民与全球资产管理业巨头贝莱德公司的创始人兼 CEO 劳伦斯·芬克并称双雄。最近舒立时间在北京先后采访到这两位金融奇才。在上周的节目中播出了对黑石集团苏世民的专访，本期节目则带您一起认识一下有华尔街债券教父之称的贝莱德集团 CEO 劳伦斯·芬克。62岁的劳伦斯·芬克出生于洛杉矶郊区普通工人家庭。1976年自加利福尼亚大学获得 MBA 学位之后，进入投资银行第一波士顿，从公开市场债券投资起家。由于业绩出色，28岁时即成为第一波士顿历史上最年轻的合伙人，但后来又因为一笔巨额投资损失而离开。1987年，芬克正式加入苏世民的黑石集团，并创立了金融管理公司。1992年，正式脱离黑石集团，改名为贝莱德 BlackRock 投资管理公司，也称黑岩集团，并于1999年上市。2008年，美国次贷危机爆发，印证了芬克此前的一系列判断，将他和贝莱德推上神坛。在雷曼兄弟、贝尔斯登、AIG 每一次危机的风暴眼中，都能看到芬克的身影。据报道，芬克曾是时任美国财长盖特纳2011年致电请教的华尔街高管中次数最多的一位。
Your company is managing almost $5 trillion asset. It's even larger than our foreign reserve. So how can you cope with such a massive pool of money?
We have a large responsibility. I don't even focus on our scale of 4.8 trillion. I focus on making sure we manage our money successfully for every pension fund, for every insurance company, for every government, for every individual. It's an enormous responsibility, and we take that responsibility every day very seriously. And we have managed our clients' money very successfully by making sure every day we understand that responsibility.
But at such a large scale, you are the market, actually.
No, the market's over $100 trillion. We're not the market. That is we are a large player in the market. But when you think about how big China is, how big Singapore, how big the sovereign wealth funds in the Middle East, the sovereign wealth fund in Norway, when you think about how large the insurance companies of China, how large the insurance companies in Europe and the US, we're one of the components of this very large global market.
Larry, tell me the secret. What is the maximum a fund management company can manage?
I don't think there is a maximum as long as we do our job. If we manage our money successfully on behalf of our clients with positive returns, we can continue to grow. In the last 12 months, BlackRock added, on behalf of clients, $250 billion of net new flows. So our clients are asking us to manage more of their wallet. Clients are asking us to do more for them. And they're doing that because we're providing a good service. And as long as we provide a good service, we will continue to grow.
在贝莱德的全球资产管理版图中，中国市场举足轻重。2006年11月，贝莱德被选为中国全国社会保障基金理事会的境外投资管理人。2008年，贝莱德在北京设立代表处，在贝莱德与中国银行合资的中银基金管理有限公司中，贝莱德也占有16.5%的股份。 而劳伦斯芬克每年也会到访中国2到3次。
I still remember the last we met last time is 2013, and when you mentioned that BlackRock need to see a more open Chinese market to make its plan in China. So have you made your decision?
Well, I don't see much change in terms of reform within China to have more openness. But we expect over years to come that China will become more open to allow firms like BlackRock to play a larger role within the domestic economy. We have a great relationship with China. We do have the privilege of helping China in the management of some of the monies. But importantly, since 2013, we last saw, BlackRock has grown very large worldwide, and we hope one day that we can play a similar role in China as we play, since we played a large role throughout the world. So we look forward to a more enhanced role. I come to China 2-3 times a year. This is my second time already in 2015. I visited China. We think it's a great opportunity for us, BlackRock, to play a bigger role in China.
So in your vision for BlackRock, is China a major source of funding or a major market to investment?
Both. China has unique opportunities as the most populous country in the world. And as a country evolves, it's going to be a great place to invest. We already invest with Chinese companies. We already have relations with some of the large Chinese companies today. So we look at this as a fabulous place to invest over a long horizon. We also believe our international global perspective can help China and Chinese investors invest overseas. So I think we could play a very unique role as a large investor in China with corporations in their stock and their bonds. We also look for opportunities to invest as China builds out infrastructure, that we can play a big role because we are one of the largest infrastructure investors in the world. But more importantly, as reserves increase, as China's savings rates increase, as we've seen in most countries, people have a need to diversify their holdings, and we will help play that role in helping people navigate the global markets.
在劳伦斯芬克看来，当前中国的经济形势既充满着希望和乐观，也有着担忧和挑战。中国的经济转型迅速而顺利，金融业的改革和开放也走在正确的轨道上，但高储蓄率又意味着人们依旧对未来抱有不确定性，亟待释放活力。
As you talk about the China GDP, China is going through the largest economic transition of any economy in the world. China was an economy that was heavily dependent on exports and manufacturing. China is now trying to navigate its economy away from just being dependent on exports, away from just being dependent on manufacturing, trying to evolve its economy to be a more domestic consumption economy, trying to evolve its economy to become a service-oriented economy. In most developed countries, this transition took 40 or 50 years. We are only in the third year. Of course, you're going to see a slowdown in GDP as the economy is going through this transition. And as an observer of China, I am quite impressed with how well this transition is occurring. I am not suggesting it's not risk, and I'm not suggesting there may not be some short-term problems, but this large-scale transition of its economy it appears to be working quite well. The one other thing that GDP is not a great measure in all instances. As you know, as you go from a manufacturing economy to a service-oriented economy, service companies generate less GDP but employ more people. So the one thing that's interesting to note, we're seeing just as fast of job growth in China with a declining GDP. And so I would argue one should expect to see a declining GDP as it navigates its economy away from manufacturing more to service. I think the Chinese should be very proud of how the economy is so rapidly evolving. and it is transforming itself to become a much broader economy in a very short period of time. The worry that I have, and I'm going to be anxious to see if this changes, there's still way too much savings in China, which tells me people are still frightened of their future. And so we've seen a huge increase in the growth of middle class. We've seen a huge increase in education. The opportunities for Chinese to travel abroad has never been greater. The opportunities for young Chinese has never been greater in hundreds of years. And yet savings rates are indicating that there's still a fear. So the question is this fear a generational fear? Is it going to take another 10 or 20 years before the next generation feels more constructive about the opportunities? But one of the drags to the Chinese economy is this high savings rate. And until we see a reduction in the savings rate, it's hard for the Chinese economy to grow faster than it is.
Do you have any suggestion for Chinese decision makers to promote consumption? Yes.
Well, you're probably more knowledgeable than I am on that. But from an outsider, I believe as the population is aging, healthcare has to be more prominent with more and more Chinese. So having some form of healthcare safety nets has to be one of the engines to reduce savings. The second area is retirement. As China creates a broader economy, some of the areas of retirement and healthcare, from our view, could be ways of transforming the Chinese domestic economy to an economy that has more consumption.
You just told us that GDP slowing down is not that much a concern to you because the employment is not a big issue today. But people would argue that with a slowing down economy, that debt would be a big problem for us. Do you agree?
Well, no question. You're talking about personal debt or governmental debt?
Government debt, yes.
Well, China's government debt is also attached to a $3.7 trillion reserve fund. So China is in a very unique position. No question the debt is high and growing. At the same time, the reserves are larger than the reserves of any country. So I worry much more about European countries and their debt. I worry about the US and their debt levels a lot more than China. China's not even on my top 10 list of worries related to governmental debt.
2 years ago when we met, you said that shadow banking and securitization were both positive factors for China's development. How do you see the situation now, and are they in a good direction?
First of all, I don't like that name because shadow banks is a negative connotation. I believe these other lenders that are non-banks, let's not call them shadow banks, are providing a service for society. If the banks were providing loans, you would not need these new lending entities. So they're providing a societal purpose. And I think most people would say they have provided a good purpose. The key is, are they providing the service without taking extraordinary risk, or are they taking more risk? So the question is how they're organized. Are they organized by leveraging, but through leverage and taking excessive leverage? That's not good because that's just moving risk to another sector. But if they're providing a service without much leverage, they're providing loans to small or medium-sized businesses that cannot have the access to the banking system, then they're providing a good service. So it's a balance. So you can't say these new lenders, whether you call them shadow banks or non-shadow banks, they're bad or good. You need to look at the specifics of each institution. But I would say overwhelmingly they provide a good society purpose to that small business that could not get a loan from a bank, that got that loan to that small business, it's a great service.
Make the system more efficient.
It makes it sufficient more, and hopefully it will make banks more willing to do loans like that because they're missing out on some activities. So it's good. It's good competitiveness, but I'm not here to suggest that they don't present possible new risks, and they need to be supervised properly to making sure they're providing a good service without adding more risk to the financial system.
在此次劳伦斯芬克访华前后，中国股市正经历着一轮暴涨。在经济形势日趋严峻的条件下，中国股市却成为全球表现最好的市场。对此，劳伦斯芬克又是怎么看的呢？
There's no question I'm worried about the amount of margin that's associated with the Chinese market. I'm told the margin's concentrated with a very small percent of the investors. So unquestionably, when you see a fast rise in Chinese equities and with a increase in margin like you are seeing, you have to be worried about the strength of the marketplace. But as a backdrop, 6 months ago, the Chinese equity market was among the cheapest in the world. Today, Chinese equities are trading around a 16 PE. 16 PE is not a market in which that shows excesses. It's not terribly exuberant. So some of the small stocks that are trading at much larger multiples, those are the stocks that you would be worried about. And those are the stocks that presumably have high levels of margin associated with it. But we believe over a long cycle, the Chinese equity markets are going to do fine. But what I'm trying to say is there are some strong fundamentals in the Chinese equity markets. It is supported for the large cap stock, a relatively fair valued price earnings ratio. But when you're looking at some of the small cap stocks that are trading at extraordinary large PEs, this is a little more disturbing.
In China stock market today, a whole market today can go up 5% today, and then the next day could go down 5%. The volatility is growing very dramatically. What kind of signal does that give you?
When you see very volatile markets, it tells you the markets are too thin. There's not enough float. There's not enough long-term investors. So one, it would tell me that China needs to rapidly expand their market, maybe even to firms like BlackRock. But when you have volatility like that, it tells you how thin the market is. It tells you the market is being dominated by short-term traders. Short-term traders are not healthy. You need to teach people on the value of long-term investing, especially when you're talking about young people who are starting to build for their retirement. Their retirement is a 30 or 40-year objective. It's not an inter-day objective. And this is one of the big hard things to teach people. When you're building for retirement, it is a long-term horizon. Warren Buffett, who I think so many people in China worldwide respect, Warren Buffett does not trade stocks in and out. He buys companies over a 30, 40-year horizon. And this is what we are trying to teach more and more people. So with the daily volatility that you're suggesting in the Chinese market, it just tells me that the market is too narrow, too thin. It needs to have a broader base of investors. Investors are focusing on long-term horizons, and then the volatility will diminish.
金融危机之后，世界各主要经济体普遍实施了量化宽松的货币政策。西方经济的三驾马车，美国、欧洲和日本也呈现出不同的发展态势。如何看待当前的世界经济形势，把握其中的投资机会？劳伦斯芬克也表达了他的观点。
You recently warned that American monetary policy. Do you think that the Fed should raise interest rates immediately?
Well, I actually said, I didn't speak just of the Federal Reserve. I talked about all central banks are creating too easy a monetary policy. And with all the QE that's being done in Japan and the United States, well, it's finished, And in Europe, it's creating shortages of bonds, and it's creating some very difficult times for many institutions. But most importantly, it's very hard for the U.S. to begin a period of raising rates at the same time the ECB is very aggressive in buying bonds. The Bank of Japan is very aggressive in bonds. And the net result is you're seeing this very fast rising dollar. This is having a negative impact on the U.S. exporters. So what we are suggesting the Federal Reserve should begin a normalizing process in September, raising rates 25, and stopping until you see more evidence that that the rise of interest rates is not going to impact the economy and not raise the value of the dollar even more. We don't need a stronger dollar here.
You think that the global synchronization of the central banks should continue, but do you think that before September, the Europe, Japan, and China can get out of their own QE?
No, China, Japan, and Europe are further in their QE.
Yeah.
So it makes it very hard for the Federal Reserve to do the opposite.
In your recent letter to top American CEOs, you argue against corporate short-termism.
This is a letter that I write once a year. We published it last week, and we received a lot of comments about it. We believe there's way too much focus on short-term. As I talk about in China, we have too much. The volatility is short-term. I think we need to we need to refocus investors. We need to refocus our politicians. We need to refocus our CEOs on focusing on what is right over a long cycle. When you think about the media, it's always about the moment. When you think about, so it's a very difficult time for businesses to focus over a long cycle. It's very difficult for politicians to focus on a long cycle because everybody wants to know, what are you doing this minute? But I believe the most successful societies, the most successful companies are those who have a long-term focus, focusing on a long horizon outcomes. I'll get back to Warren Buffett as one of the most successful investors in everyone's lifetime. This is an investment. He thinks of investment horizons over tens of years. We all respect him, but very few people follow him.
It's hard.
It's not hard. That's the problem. It's easy. It's very easy. It's just you have to have focus, and you need to making sure that you don't focus on the noise. And now with the internet, and now with all the information bombarding us, most human beings have no idea what to focus on. What noise is relevant, what noise is not important. And so it is my letter is about focusing on the long horizon. And I believe if more CEOs focus on long cycles, long horizons, the performance of the companies will be better, my investors will be better off, and society is better off. And so much of what we're trying to focus on as the largest investment firm in the world, how do we improve society? How do we make sure that people's have a better future? And with higher confidence, like in China, if you had more confidence over a 20-year cycle, I promise you there'd be more consumption in China, not less consumption. And if with more consumption in China, China would even do better.